Something has shifted. The divine feminine is no longer chasing. But what happens now? Will the masculine finally wake up? For so long, the divine feminine has been the one holding space, waiting and hoping for the masculine to align. But there comes a moment when she stops chasing, when she finally lets go. And when that happens, everything changes. Comment "I release" below if you are stepping into your power and letting go of the chase. Let's dive into the signs that reveal the feminine is done chasing, and what this means for the twin flame journey. When the divine feminine stops chasing, a profound shift occurs in the twin flame journey. For so long, she has been the one holding on, waiting and hoping for the divine masculine to awaken and recognize the connection. But there comes a moment when she realizes that chasing only creates resistance. When she finally lets go, choosing herself instead. This moment is not about giving up on the twin flame connection, but rather surrendering to the divine flow. It is about stepping into personal power, embracing self-love, and trusting that what is meant to be will unfold in divine timing. But what happens when the feminine truly stops chasing? How does this impact the masculine? In this video, we'll explore the undeniable signs that the divine feminine is done chasing, and why this shift can change everything in the twin flame journey. If you've felt exhausted, frustrated, or ready to move forward, this might be the confirmation you need. Keep watching to discover what happens next. One of the biggest transformations in the twin flame journey happens when the divine feminine reaches a breaking point, not out of anger, but out of deep realization. After pouring so much energy into the connection, waiting, hoping, and trying to make things work, she begins to understand a fundamental truth. Chasing only creates distance. Instead of pushing forward, she chooses to surrender. This shift is not just a change in behavior, it's an emotional awakening. She no longer feels the desperate need for external validation. The longing softens, the overthinking quiets, and she begins to focus on herself. Have you noticed moments where you suddenly feel at peace with letting go? That's a sign of transformation. It doesn't mean she stops loving her twin flame. Rather, she stops allowing the connection to dictate her happiness. She embraces the idea that if this union is meant to happen, it will unfold naturally. And ironically, this very act of letting go can trigger a shift in the masculine energy. But how does the universe respond to this change? And what happens when the masculine feels this energetic release? Keep watching, because this shift changes everything. One of the clearest signs that the divine feminine is done chasing the masculine is when she fully redirects her energy toward herself After months or even years of prioritizing the connection, waiting for communication, or seeking signs of progress, she finally realizes that her greatest power lies in her own healing and growth. At this stage, she stops obsessing over what the masculine is doing and shifts her focus inward. Instead of constantly checking for messages or feeling anxious about the future, she begins to embrace the present moment. She invests in her passions, nurtures her creativity, and strengthens her emotional well-being. Have you ever felt a moment of clarity where you knew it was time to choose yourself? That is a sign of true transformation. The feminine starts to set boundaries, not out of resentment, but out of self-respect. She no longer tolerates breadcrumbing, hot and cold behavior, or anything that drains her energy. She understands that self-love is not just about affirmations, but about real action, choosing peace over anxiety, fulfillment over waiting, and self-worth over seeking approval. As she steps into this power, something interesting happens. Her energy shifts. The masculine, who once felt the certainty of her presence, begins to sense the change. Why? Because the twin flame connection is deeply energetic. When she stops chasing, the dynamic reverses, and the masculine begins to feel the void left by her absence. But does this mean he will come back? And if he does, will she even want the same kind of connection anymore? The journey continues, but one thing is clear. She is no longer the same person she once was. When the divine feminine stops chasing, the entire energetic balance of the twin flame connection shifts, and the universe takes notice. Twin flames are deeply connected through a divine mission. So when one counterpart undergoes a major transformation, the entire dynamic realigns in response. At first, this shift might feel subtle. The feminine, after redirecting her focus inward, starts to experience an increase in synchronicities, angel numbers, dreams, or sudden moments of clarity that reaffirm she is on the right path. She may feel lighter, freer, as if a weight has been lifted, and that's because it has. The act of surrendering releases the fear, anxiety, and emotional exhaustion that came from trying to control the journey. But the universe doesn't stop there. It begins to reflect this transformation back to the masculine. The energy field between them changes, and he can feel it. Even if they are in complete separation, the masculine picks up on the absence of the feminine's emotional pull. Suddenly, he might start seeing her name everywhere, dreaming about her, or feeling waves of emotions that seem to come out of nowhere. Have you ever had a moment where everything around you seemed to be sending you a message? That's what happens to the masculine now. The universe amplifies the call for his awakening. placing signs and experiences in his path that force him to face the truth he has been avoiding. He might meet people who remind him of his feminine, hear songs that trigger deep emotions, or go through unexpected life events that push him into introspection. This is where divine timing steps in. The feminine's release signals to the universe that she is truly ready for alignment, whether that includes her masculine or not. This shift opens the door for a reunion, but only if the masculine chooses to step forward. So, will he answer the call, or will the universe continue to push him until he has no choice but to face his soul's truth? When the divine feminine stops chasing, the masculine twin flame is forced to face a reality he has long avoided. For much of the journey, he may have taken the feminine's energy, patience, and unconditional love for granted, assuming she would always be there, waiting. But when she shifts her focus inward and stops pursuing him, something profound happens. His awakening begins. At first, the masculine may feel a sense of relief, mistaking her absence for freedom. He might distract himself with work, social activities, or even other relationships. However, as time passes, an unexpected feeling sets in, a deep, unshakable void. The energy that once surrounded him, offering warmth and reassurance, is gone. This forces him to reflect on the connection in a way he never has before. Have you ever noticed that people only truly appreciate something once it's gone? That's exactly what happens here. Without the feminine's consistent presence, the masculine starts to feel the depth of their bond in a way he had been avoiding. He begins to question his choices, his emotions, and why he feels an internal pull toward her even in separation. As the feminine flourishes in her own power, the masculine starts to mirror that process. He may experience intense dreams, sudden emotional breakthroughs, or even an urge to reconnect. This is not just longing, it's awakening. He begins to see past his fears, recognizing that his avoidance was never about her, but about his own unresolved wounds. But will he take action? That depends on how ready he is to face his own transformation. Some masculines reach out, ready to grow and step into the connection fully, while others continue resisting, trapped in their cycles. Either way, the feminine's decision to stop chasing is the catalyst for his deepest awakening yet. Once the divine feminine stops chasing and surrenders to her own healing, the twin flame journey enters a new phase, one filled with uncertainty, transformation, and ultimately divine alignment. But what actually happens next? At first, the feminine continues to experience growth and self-empowerment. She steps fully into her purpose, finds joy outside of the connection, and embraces her individuality. This phase is crucial because it signals to the universe that she is no longer operating from fear or attachment, but rather from a place of trust and inner strength. Have you felt yourself becoming more independent and less consumed by thoughts of your counterpart? That's a sign you're shifting into this new energy. Meanwhile, the masculine begins to feel the void left by her absence. Even if he doesn't consciously understand why, something feels different. He may try to distract himself, throwing himself into work, relationships, or other external pursuits, but nothing seems to fill the gap. The more the feminine stands in her power, the more the masculine is forced to face his own fears, wounds, and unresolved emotions. This is where divine timing steps in. If the masculine chooses to awaken, he will begin his own healing process, often mirroring the inner work that the feminine has already done. Synchronicities will guide him, dreams will reveal hidden truths, and his intuition will become louder. It's in this stage that some masculines will finally gather the courage to reach out, while others will continue resisting until the universe delivers an undeniable wake-up call. For some twin flames, this phase leads to harmonization and reunion. For others, it marks the beginning of an even deeper spiritual journey, where the focus is no longer on coming together, but rather on fulfilling their divine mission, whether separately or together. So, where are you in this journey? Do you feel the shift happening? Trust that whatever unfolds next is exactly what your soul needs at this moment. The twin flame journey is never about chasing. It's about alignment, healing, and surrendering to divine timing. When the feminine truly lets go, it's not about giving up. It's about stepping into her highest power and trusting that the universe will take care of the rest. This shift changes everything. It allows her to experience peace, abundance, and love from within, without waiting for external validation. For the masculine, this is the turning point. Whether he consciously realizes it or not, the feminine's energy withdrawal triggers deep introspection and forces him to confront his emotions. Some masculines will awaken and move towards reunion, while others may take longer to fully embrace their transformation. Either way, the journey continues, and it always unfolds in the way that serves both souls best. So, trust the process and focus on your own growth. The more you align with your true self, the more you attract the love, peace, and union that you deserve. have you felt this shift in your journey? Comment below with "I trust the process" to affirm your surrender and alignment.